What if I told you there's a third secret book, a lost manuscript hidden right under your nose, buried inside the Book of Enoch itself? We've all heard of Enoch, the guy who was taken to the heavens, but nobody talks about the man who actually survived the apocalypse, Noah. What did Noah see that was so terrifying, so earth-shattering that he had to write his own scripture? And the biggest question of all, why is his writing still trapped, hidden inside someone else's book, while the original manuscript remains one of the greatest missing treasures in human history? In this video, we're going to peel back the layers of the Book of Enoch to find the Book of Noah hiding in the shadows. We'll look at the fragments that survived, the strange prophecies Noah wrote about the Watchers that no one talks about, and the massive mystery of why the Western world conveniently forgot this book existed. This isn't just about ancient history. This is about a hidden perspective on the end of the world. Let's dive in. Now, let's get into the weeds. If you've ever sat down and really read the Book of Enoch, and I mean read it all the way through, you'll start to notice something weird. The narrative shifts. It's like the perspective changes. And that's because if you look closely, Enoch is actually quoting someone else. Scholars have been whispering about this for years. They call it the Noah fragments. There are entire sections in Enoch, specifically chapters 60, 65 through 69, and parts of 106 and 107, where the voice completely changes. Enoch stops talking, and Noah starts giving us the inside scoop on what he saw. See, there was an entire independent Book of Noah that existed way back when. The Dead Sea Scrolls confirmed this. We found little scraps of it in those Qumran caves. But the full version? Gone. Vanished. The Western Church decided it didn't belong in the canon, so they just dropped it. But here's the kicker. They didn't delete all of it. They couldn't. It was so deeply woven into the Book of Enoch that they had to leave pieces of it in there just to keep the story flowing. So, for the last 2,000 years, you've been reading Noah's secret journal without even realizing it. But what exactly did he write? And why was it so dangerous that they had to cut it out? Now, brace yourself, because this is where the Book of Noah starts to get really weird. And I mean, fringe of reality weird. In the fragments we have, Noah isn't just some guy building a boat. He's a guy dealing with a reality that was fundamentally broken. One of the most famous fragments of the Book of Noah actually details his own birth. And let me tell you, it's not your average miracle baby story. When Noah was born, he was different. The text says his skin was white as snow, his hair was white as wool, and his eyes were like the rays of the sun. He was so strange that his own father Lamech was terrified. Lamech actually ran to his grandfather Methuselah and asked, "Is this even my kid? Or did one of the Watchers, one of those fallen angels, father him?" Think about that. The panic was real. They were looking at a child who looked like a cosmic anomaly. But it gets deeper. The fragments describe Noah having these intense, terrifying visions of the Watchers, those beings we talked about before, the ones who descended on Mount Hermon. While Enoch focused on the grand cosmic view, the stars, the judgment, the heavenly architecture, Noah was focused on the corruption on the ground. Noah wrote about how the Watchers were teaching humans things they were never supposed to know. He saw the shift in the seasons, he saw the genetic tampering, and he saw the exact moment the Earth began to tilt off its axis because of the chaos the Watchers brought. Noah's writings were like a war correspondent's diary from the front lines of an apocalypse that was already happening. He wasn't just observing the judgment, he was watching the world be reprogrammed. He knew the flood wasn't just a rainstorm. It was the only way to delete the corruption that had infected the human bloodline. And that's the scary part. Noah was the only one who truly understood why the reset was necessary. So, why would Noah, the great-grandson of Enoch, need to write his own book? If Enoch had already been to the heavens and back, and had already laid out the entire history of the world, why put pen to paper yourself? This is where you have to understand the difference between the two men. Enoch was the architect. He saw the cosmic order. He was the guy who walked the halls of the heavens and saw how the stars, the lightning, and the angelic hierarchies were supposed to work. He was looking at the divine blueprint. But Noah? Noah was the survivor. He was looking at the ground. While Enoch was busy writing about the grand judgment, Noah was seeing the day-to-day tactical corruption of the human race. And here's the thing that really gets me. Noah was looking at things that, frankly, Enoch seemed to overlook. When you read the Book of Noah fragments, you realize he wasn't interested in the big picture of heaven. He was obsessed with the mechanics of the fall. Noah was tracking how the Watchers were manipulating human life on a granular level. He saw how the very weather patterns were being altered. He saw how the laws of nature were being bent, not just by spirits, but by the physical technology and the occult knowledge that the Watchers were pouring into humanity. Noah's writing has this desperate, urgent tone to it. He's sounding the alarm. He's basically saying, I don't care about the architecture of the stars right now. I care about the fact that we are being rewritten at the DNA level. There's a theory, and you won't hear this in your Sunday school classes, that Noah was seeing something that even Enoch was shielded from. Some scholars argue that Noah had a much more intimate and much more terrifying understanding of how the Nephilim were created. He wasn't just observing the chaos, he was the one who had to live with the physical reality of a world that was no longer human. Enoch wrote the theory, Noah wrote the manual for survival. And that's why it's so frustrating that the book is hidden. We have the theory of the universe from Enoch, but we've lost the manual for survival from Noah. We have the diagnosis of the cancer, but we lost the doctor's notes on how the disease actually spread. When you realize that Noah was documenting the literal end of human nature, you start to see why his book was the first thing they wanted to bury. It wasn't just scripture, it was an eyewitness account of a planet being harvested. Now, we have to talk about how we even know this exists. If the Western world spent centuries trying to categorize these books as apocryphal, which is just a fancy way of saying things we don't want you to read, how did these fragments survive at all? The answer lies in the high plateaus of Ethiopia. While the rest of the world was busy scrubbing these texts from their Bibles, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church was doing something incredible. They were acting as the world's vault. They didn't just preserve the Book of Enoch, they preserved the Book of Jubilees, the Book of the Maccabees, and crucially, these precious, jagged pieces of the Book of Noah. When researchers finally started digging into the Ge'ez manuscripts in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they realized that the Ethiopian tradition didn't see these books as secondary. They saw them as vital. They understood that you cannot tell the story of the flood or the story of the coming judgment without the man who lived through it. They treated Noah's perspective with the same reverence as Enoch's. But here is where the story turns into a real-life mystery. We have these fragments, sure. We have the quotes tucked into Enoch. But is the entire book still out there? There are rumors circulating among the most serious biblical scholars that somewhere in the hidden monastic libraries of northern Ethiopia, places that haven't been cataloged by modern eyes for centuries, there might be complete intact copies of the Book of Noah. We aren't talking about scraps. We're talking about a full first-person account of the pre-flood world. Imagine the building of the ark, the final days before the rains fell, the direct interactions with the watchers, all written by the one man who saw it all. It's like finding the black box of a plane crash that changed the history of the planet. Why haven't we seen it? Is it being protected? Or is it still waiting for someone to go and open the right chest in the right basement, in a monastery that sits on a mountaintop where no GPS can reach? The truth is, we are living in a time where these things are starting to come to light. The digital age is catching up to the ancient world. If the full Book of Noah exists, it will change everything. It would force us to rewrite the entire Genesis narrative. It would prove that the history of humanity was never a straight line, but a struggle against something much older and much darker than we've been told. So, here's the question I want to leave you with. If the Book of Enoch was the key that unlocked the secrets of the heavens, and the Book of Noah is the key that unlocks the secrets of the earth, what happens when we finally put them both together? There's a massive puzzle here, and we've only just found the edges. I've got a feeling that the hunt for the Book of Noah is only just beginning, and what we find next might be even bigger than the flood itself. If you want to be the first to know when we dig deeper into these lost archives, and believe me, I am hunting for these fragments every single day, hit that follow button. We are going to go into the text that nobody else is brave enough to open. We're just getting started. I'll see you in the next investigation.